Hello, it's Steve. The theme for this Trijam was no thinking aloud, which is kind of a weird topic. It brings to mind a lot of like clicker games and things, but I ended up landing on a puzzle theme. I guess that's mainly because that's my wheelhouse these days. But the goal of this game is to protect an adventurer as they explore a dungeon in search of treasure. It's pretty simple. I'm working on the sprites here. As you can see by the number of sprites that I end up making, it is kind of a more complex concept for the 3-hour jam. And you'll also see me coming back to the sprites later because I forgot a treasure sprite. But I think I pulled it off fairly well. I did go over a little bit, and I'll talk about that later. I saved some time by sketching up the puzzles themselves beforehand, which actually this helps a lot, especially if you're making puzzle games for a short jam. Because it helped me think through my mechanics as well as make the levels a lot faster. Anyway, I'm going to duck out now and return when there's something interesting to talk about. This is my first time interacting with the tile map as like a source of truth for movement. It's not super well suited to this interaction out of the box, so I'm glad I added a little abstraction layer to it just for this jam. It could probably use some refactoring. In fact, I know it does because I'm actively working on refactoring this code to be more reusable for future projects. I just couldn't help but to think towards the end of this project that a lot of the things I was doing from collision to movement could have been easier and more consistent. If you work in Godot a lot, you're familiar with the static body 2D, rigid body 2D, and character body 2D, and things like that. There's a lot of similar concepts in other engines as well. My brain was thinking along the lines of a tile body 2D that would move only on the tiles, and then you could interact with that as like an abstract layer that you wouldn't have to worry about what tile map you're on at any given time. So that's what I'm working on now. So the treasure floating logic probably should have been a nice to have. I hadn't fully conceptualized it before we're starting work on the game, so it took a little while longer than I wanted it to. It would have been a whole lot faster if I just added it to the player's inventory and removed it from the scene. But overall, I think I like how it looks. And that kind of brings me to a lot of the things that I did in this jam a little differently were mainly around look and feel. And I think that a lot of that comes down to discovering or rediscovering async await, or where did that brain cell come from? Awaiting a signal is what I'm talking about here. In functions in Godot, that helps a lot, turning things that would potentially be OOP nightmares into really simple to write and fairly easy to understand procedural functions. Obviously, there's a lot of debate on that, and there's a lot of opinions that could be had there, but I don't think anyone will really argue that that helps the prototyping phase go a whole lot faster, and that's kind of what this jam is all about. And I think it has a lot of use cases on its own, but that's a different discussion. Anyway, back to the music. So I kind of skipped over the pitfall toggle logic, but what I would say about that is pretty much the same I would say about this, other than that's a little less complicated. But the logic I ended up with in these cases was a little bit overcomplicated. During the refactor process, I had some more time to think about it and landed on just having the portals and the planks active in the scene as it loads, and then deactivating and reactivating them as the triggers are clicked, which probably just by me talking about it is a much more simple solution than whatever the hell is going on your screen right now. Anyway, while past me works on getting the levels laid out, I just wanted to talk about how I felt the game ended up as of the submission to the Game Jam. I think overall the game turned out pretty good, but the level of interaction could have been higher. It seemed like a lot of the puzzles I came up with were ultimately solved by clicking one of the interactable objects one time, which is fine for the first few levels if this was a longer game, but if it was a longer game, that would have to change pretty quickly. I think it would be a good idea to add more complex interactions, as well as like more enemy types and definitely varying win conditions. And this is actually something you'll see I came back to at the end of the video, adding the lives system that was there because basically the win-loss state was really way too linear. It was just do a level over and over again until you get it right, and then do the next level over and over again. Maybe it's a bit of a padding measure as well, I don't know. At this point in the process, I had checked the time and I was slightly over 3 hours. It's still lacking audio and the gameplay was a little dull. So I ended up spending an extra hour, or a little bit more than an hour, on a death animation for the Goblinoid, the life system that I just mentioned, sound effects, and music. Of course, unfortunately, I lost 2/3 of the music to a freak exporting accident, and then, of course, not saving ever, because I don't. Why would I save? And with that, I'll let you watch a time-lapse of the music and sound effects being added, and that's the end of the jam. Thanks for watching.